great month for everybody. Hope everybody had a good month last night. But we have some special promotions that we just want to recognize tonight. So, Kim Sixton, come on up. There she go. And Amy Darrington, come on. Everybody else in the team. Got a big question. Janice Oliver got Star Director 2 months ago?
Yeah, you did.
No, it's been almost a year.
Yeah.
My director, Jody Soda,
Yes.
in Minnesota.
Just became Star Director. That's what it was.
Yes.
That's
I was
right.
like, wait a
That's
minute.
huge.
And then Kathy just got promoted to Director?
No.
Star Director.
Superstar consultant.
Oh, Superstar Consultant.
Superstar!
I'm so out of it. Sorry. Superstar Consultant, congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Promote? You want to know? Okay.
Okay,
we're
so
all
where
going
did
there.
these two promote?
Yeah. Okay, we're going.
Okay.
Kim Sixton just promoted to Star Director. And tell them a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in it, and I'm so excited.
I have been with Scentsy 5.5 years and promoted, well, I quit my job about 2.5 years into it and became director the October after I quit working. And then it took me 3 stinking years, but I started director.
You go, girl. And then Amy Darrington did something spectacular. I mean, I couldn't even do this. She went from director to superstar director in 1 month.
Wow.
She promoted 3 directors this last month. And so, pretty big deal. We're so excited for her. Tell us a little bit about you. How you been doing it?
I've been with Scentsy for 4 years in January, but I didn't actually start doing anything until September of 2010. And I made director in 5 months after that, and then I double promoted last month, 2 years and 2 months. No, wait, 1 year and like a year and a half after I promoted to director.
And just a little side note, this is something I always tell people, is that everybody's journey is different. Everybody has different mountains to climb and hills to conquer. And so we're all on the same path together, and we just are here to support everybody on their own individual journey. So I just want to congratulate them again. It really is so cool, and I can't wait to see everybody else promoting and becoming even bigger and bigger. So anyways, that was my little thank you. You're welcome. Congratulations. Oh, anybody here for the first time?
Awesome.
Awesome. 1, 2,
4.
yes, 3 names out there.
Okay.
Okay, where are you from?
Boise.
Boise. Okay.
Katrina from Boise.
From Boise. And who brought you? Or
Kathy brought
Kathy brought you? Good girl.
Kathy.
Oh, Kathy, good girl.
Director's not fun.
That's right. She's on her way. Superstar Consultant Director this month, right?
One more.
One
2
more
more there.
Oh, newbies? Oh, yes. And you are?
Christina Wallen.
And you are with?
Danette Cole.
Oh, awesome. Love that.
Sandy Crosso. Danette Cole.
Danette Cole. Very cool. We wish Danette were here, but we do love Danette. So, okay, I'm going to introduce my husband. He is going to do a little presentation on shows and fairs. And he has a lot of experience in this because he kind of took over for me when he retired from Scentsy.
So I learned from the best.
I used to do them, and now he sells more candles than I do. So, anyways, I'm going to turn the time over to him.
Cool. Well, I do have a handout for later, but what I wanted to do tonight is just make it very open. So if you have questions as we go through this, shoot them out, because there's a lot of ladies in here who have done a lot more shows than I have, or who are on the path to do a lot more shows than I have. Just a little bit of a background, so you kind of get an idea of what we do here. Our entire operation is based around the next show. And we've got a big warehouse full of products, so we can pack up and go when we're ready to, or we can supplement. Our Virginia show that we just did last week with John, which, by the way, if you don't know, John over here, he's our show manager.
You'll never see me on the video.
We do about 40 shows a year, and so we have to deal with a lot of show promoters and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we hope to go over with you tonight to kind of give you an idea of some of the basics, so you don't get into a show and lose your shirt, because we've done that a few times. So we're going to try to give you some guidance. So if you get into the show arena, you know what you're doing, okay? How many of you currently have done a show or have a show booked? Awesome, awesome. Okay, how many of you want to do more shows or get into the show arena? Okay, good. All right, so what is a show for? Who can tell me what a show is used for, especially in direct selling? Yes?
Booking and recruiting.
Excellent. That's exactly what it's for. The reason why booking and recruiting is what you do at shows is because not every show are you going to make money at. Okay? And that really depends on how you, which shows you take, how much the booth costs are, that kind of thing. All right? So the other big thing is these are going to be people in front of your booth that you're never going to see at a home party, that you're never going to see more than likely throughout your course of your consultantship, okay? So these are great opportunities when you get in front of somebody at your booth and you don't have very much time with them. They're show goers. They're going to the next booth. They have a mission, okay? So we've learned some things along the way. There's a lot of low-cost shows out there. Schools do them. There's bazaars all over the place. You're going to have consultants drop out and not do those booths if they're currently booked. So constantly check back. Get on waiting lists, that kind of thing. All right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the TV. It's just going to be kind of some background pictures of different booths that have been set up. Some of them might be yours because we've taken them from some of the websites. So kind of get a look through that as we're going.
This is to draw the attention off of him and onto the TV. There might be a little.
If the show's over and I'm not here anymore, I don't know how that happened. But, no.
Might be a little magic mic moment.
That's
on
what
the
I
video.
was gonna say. Magic
I think we threw some of those on the video. I actually think there's a little butt shot of him somewhere.
Okay, let's talk about the shows that are not free or low cost. Okay, this is where you can get burned. So you want to be, you really want to have your homework. Okay. So the first thing to do is have a good resource, and that is some way to quantify the show. What we have done, and this is on the handout, is we use a place called festival.net, or festivalnet.com, sorry. Festivalnet.com, and it's on the paper, I'll give it to you. There's a free service, and then there's also the paid service. The paid service is $49 a year, and if you're really going to get into shows, it's worth the money. The reason why I say that is they give reviews, not only for the customers, but the vendors will also review the show promoter. So if you got really bad show promoter ratings, you don't want to go there. That means everybody else who's been there won't go back. It also tells you about traffic, which is important, and we'll get into traffic a little bit later. And it talks a little bit about the locations and when they're available and all the contact information. So if you want to get on waiting lists, who to call, okay? So that's on here. And you can take a look at some other ones, but we found this one very comprehensive. It's pretty much every show in the U.S., okay? So some of the things to think about is the show promoter advertising? Are they really trying to get traffic to that show? How long have they been in business? And then you're going to want to, before you book the show, check out your opportunity costs. How much is it going to cost you to get there if it's not local? What's the booth size? Is electrical included? Do they have rentals like tables and skirts for the tables, things like that? Okay. Insurance. Some of them will have security on site. Others just have insurance and they lock the building.
You missed it.
I have a heckler in the back. Travel. So the travel, food, that kind of thing. Keep all those things in mind when you're looking at booking shows. Now these are all common sense things, but the reason why we bring them up is because as you get into shows, it's very easy to forget some of these steps, and then you realize, oh, it cost me $2,000 in travel. My booth was $800, and I sold 3,000. Well, did you recruit? Because that's why you're there. Okay. So out-of-state shows, one thing that we found that's very helpful for an out-of-state show is, do they have an advanced warehouse? Advanced warehouses are awesome because you can do a show by sending out all of your product from Scentsy, put in a party, ship it directly to the advanced warehouse. No shipping involved. When you get there, all of your product's there. You can even send your display box, whatever you're going to put out on your table, and they'll put it right in your booth for you. And you don't have to worry about having it shipped to the hotel and getting a car and dragging it all over town. Okay? Because we've done that before. The other thing you want to know is, how long is the show open for? Is it going to be a quick, easy setup? Do you have enough time to do it? So is it going to be additional days for you to travel and you have to set up the full day before? So keep those things in mind. And then, are you going to be on your feet all day long, or is there some local girls that you've got that can come and help offset some of those hours? Okay. The other thing that we found is very helpful is this a reoccurring show? Does the community support the show? Do they go out in numbers to, I mean, if there's a Christmas show, more than likely it's the 27th annual, and it's been in the same location. People go there because they expect it. Those are the shows you want to get into. Those are really good for traffic. Traffic is the key, okay? And we'll go over some traffic. So every show promoter out there is going to lie about their traffic. There's not one out there that's going to tell you that, yeah, they're, even on their website, they're going to give you some funky numbers. That's why we like to go to these other resources like the festivalevent.com, because they'll give you what the vendors really see. How many people, how many ticket sales are actually out there. So,
One thing about that festival net, the majority of the reviews are going to be negative ones, because usually if you go to a show and it works out just fine, you don't think about it after that. You don't think to go back. It's when you've had a really bad experience with the show that you want to speak your mind about it, and those are the reviews that end up there. So you're not going to see a lot of positive reviews, but when you do see those negative reviews, those are the ones to pay attention to, because those are people. A lot of time it might be an axe to grind, but if there's quite a few, if it looks, smells, and tastes like what, it probably is.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to share that a lot of vendors will be really honest with you when you do shows, and they'll tell you. But I've actually increasingly been meeting vendors who don't want to tell you what the good shows are, because they don't want too many other vendors coming in there and driving prices up. That's something that you might have to keep your own eye out and check out the shows ahead of time.
I've actually had something similar to that. I've had some. So, Scentsy, in a really good show, you're going to get a lot of traffic. We have a Utah State Fair, and I'll just share a little bit about that one. Utah's where Scentsy started, so it's Main Street. They go to the show, they expect to find pretty much every discontinued for the last year and a half. And we plan for that in advance. We throw everything we got at that show because it's a really good show. Well, when you get a really good show and you've got a lot of traffic in front of your booth, and you're looking around and the rest of the booths are kind of empty and there's only 1 or 2 people there and there's 12 in front of yours, if you ask them how their show's going, they'll make it sound like the promoter really sucks. Because they want to take focus off the fact that they have a bad show, or they have a bad product, or they have a bad booth. So you got to take all of that with a grain of salt. You're there for one reason. You're there to recruit people for Scentsy and to get bookings so that you can see these people again, or to plant seeds with the product so that they'll call you later, or go to your website. Okay?
I'm
What's that?
sorry, are we doing questions at the end? Or?
No, throw them out.
Okay, so you go to Utah
Yes.
and you do a show and you book a party
who hosts the party if you live here?
Well, a lot of what we try to do is have a local consultant who's either worked the booth with us, is in our downline somewhere, or is a good friend or something that will take those shows or those parties and do
So
it
you
for
need
you.
a local person.
A lot of times, it's not hard to find a local consultant who is even willing to come down and help a little bit. And if they're there, it's good to keep them going because that helps you go. So it's one of those things where we found that if we're there allowing them the opportunity to spend a few hours in the booth, we'll be happy for those people who have parties to give them somebody to talk to. And so we give out their cards or whatever. And you can work that however you want, because we'll get to that, how to share a booth, because it can get kind of dicey. All right, traffic is the key. So I'm going to throw out some numbers to you on traffic. The deal with traffic really is because they're going to give you a really big number, take 25% off of it. I don't care what they give you. Take 25% right off the top. Okay. Reason why is because these are the numbers you're going to use to calculate how much product you bring. Okay. And what your potential recruiting are. So this is on your handout. We're also going to post this so people can download it. But here's a quick rundown. So if they have a history of taking or getting 5,000 people in the show, all right, you're going to talk to, see, or have stop at your booth 4%. It might seem kind of low. That's 200 people, okay? Reason why is if there's 5,000 people there, they're going to be crowded in the hallways. They're there for a particular reason. They may totally miss you because they didn't go down that road, okay? So there's a lot of things that cause that. But count on about 200 people visiting your booth, all right? Some shows do better than others, but that's a pretty good number. You'll sell to about 0.025% of the time. So you're going to have about 125 sales. If the average sale is roughly $27, that's a little over $3,300. Okay. Some shows do better. That's an average. I've had some shows where the booth costs us only $900, but we're there for 10 days. Okay. But we end up with a little over $23,000 in sales of 7 or 8 recruits. Those are great shows, but that's a time investment. Okay. So the thing with shows, when you're having that kind of traffic and you're getting just those small numbers to your booths, you want to make sure you're not putting everything out. You've seen our catalog. It's very simple. It's not a hard catalog, but there's a lot of product there. Don't take every bar we offer. Okay? Take the seasonal, take some popular. Don't take everything. Don't take a little bit of the foams. Don't take everything. Take 2 or 3 items, and as far as, so like bars, warmers, and maybe buddies. Okay? Focus on those. And if they want other things, take an order right there online and pay for their shipping or do something, you know, to encourage that. Because now you have their information. Okay? There's a lot of things you can do at a show, but I've seen some shows where there's so much of everything, you can't get through it. It's very busy. And this you need to look at as a retail outlet. This is a 3-day show that is now your cash and carry. Okay? They'll let you do it. Be ready for it. They'll find something that they want. Okay?
You can.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna go over this or not, a new client, but do you think that it's advantageous to do the close-off displays as opposed to the walk-through and get whatever you want displays?
Okay, well, I gotta tell you, we've been doing this a long time, but we found that, just recently actually,
Yeah, really recent.
we found that our sales spiked about 30% when we opened it up and we let people come in.
And we didn't use testers.
And we stopped using testers. So here's the problem that, at a home party, these are the bomb. Because you can bring 80 of these and let them smell everything. But at a show, they want to know what this is for. How does this work in here? You know, how do you get this out? How do you? I mean, they're silly, or they walk off with them, thinking that they're free.
Oh, yeah.
I've had that happen a lot.
I have more of those taken than anything else.
So we stopped using this, and we actually went to this system, which John found for us. We were looking for an option to take with us in a suitcase that we could go to a show or ship out with our display. This is over at Bed Bath & Beyond. It's $20, and you can build 2 of these. The only difference is you'll have to find your own hooks. We get one that'll hold 5, but there's ones out that'll hold 3. And I wouldn't do any more than that on this because the framework isn't strong enough. But it works. And now, yeah.
Where do you get the hooks?
There's a place called Catapult 3 in Boise that has them in stock. And there's another spot that's actually a discounted spot.
Yeah, there's the one out at the farm store out in Nampa.
Farm store in Napa. They're actually cheaper. The farm store is cheaper.
And they'll order them for you
Yep.
if you pay up front, usually, if it's a special one.
Yeah.
And
Just like with
depending on
anything.
Depending on the hooks, you can either get them at Harbor Freight, and they're like $3 for 5. They're like insanely cheap, but they're not like that. They're like the ones you stick in cardboard.
Right. So these, just to kind of, do we have any? All right. So it's Bed Bath & Beyond.
And if you take one of those 20% off coupons, you get in the mail all the time too.
Yeah.
And the good thing about this is that if this was to get dinged up or destroyed throughout your show,
Yeah.
it's $10 if you throw half of it away. So it's not a big deal. You don't
Or
have to worry about it.
panel by panel.
This, I think, is like 32 cents. So keep that in mind as far as how many you get and the length of it. We use a lot of them just in our prep in our warehouse. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea on some of the numbers as far as what to expect in sales. And the reason why we focus on just a couple of items is it really makes the booth look clean, very presentable, not a lot of clutter, and they can find what they're looking for. And if you're bringing out populars, seasonals, things that are really in demand, like right now, we cannot keep any of the cinnamons in stock. We just can't. It's almost impossible. So you know that's something you're going to want to bring along. If you're looking at the things that are good sellers, you can actually pull a top 10 report from Scentsy. They have all that stuff listed. It's in the
Not
back
anymore.
office.
They don't
No.
do it on the newsletter anymore.
They're not doing it at all, I don't think.
Well-
I'll tell you on the weekly call-ins on Tuesday.
Sometimes.
Yeah, not always. Just call Consortium.
Let's ask for that resource back.
Yeah.
It is helpful. One thing to remember, when we did have it, the thing that kind of skewed the numbers was the scent of the month. Because that's always a high one because of all the people who are getting that kit. Kind of discount that until you get a feel for it yourself.
Well, and what we've noticed at shows too is that if you don't take as many of the eccentric type warmers, then you do the more neutral and the very luminescent ones sell really well.
Like
The white
Crinkle, that one
or-
does really well right
And
now.
plugins especially for the bathrooms, the lighter ones always sell better than the darker ones. So just really, when you're doing a show that you have product in hand for that you don't want to be stuck with, resources and friends in different parts of the country to kind of find out what they sell the most of in their area before you go do a show.
Yep, definitely. All right, so let's talk about recruits at a show. Gave you some of the basic numbers of what we see that come up to your booth. But of the 200 people of this little example that will come to your booth, 4 of those will either sign up in the booth or sign up in the next couple of months after the show. Okay. Roughly 4.
For what?
And that's of the 200 that you actually saw in your booth. Okay? Now, remember, you don't have a lot of time with them. It's not like at a home party where you can sit for 10 or 15 minutes and kind of cover stuff and get them excited. You might have 30 seconds. And that's just if they've never heard of it before. If they have, you don't have to worry. They're going to smell. They're going to do what they need to do.
So what's your pitch, Karen?
Yeah, let's.
We're getting to that. We're getting to that.
Look at my butt.
I take my shirt
Look at
off
my
my
butt.
shoulder. So some of the other things to consider are, what does the show promoter expect of you as a vendor? You need to know if you can leave early. You need to know if you have rules like you can't go out into the aisles and solicit. They'll knock you down and they'll kick you out if you don't follow the rules. So
Right.
I've had it happen to other people, but we always follow the rules. So one gentleman, just a couple of rows ahead of us, I was at out in North Carolina at a Raleigh show, and he had these really cool airplanes that he would fly up and then come back down. And he just kept playing this little game, and his people would come by, the kids would get all excited. And he was kind of a distraction, and so 3 or 4 of the booth guys said, hey, he's disrupting my business. Now here's what you need to remember, it's competition. They're looking for the same set of eyes you are to look at your booth. They don't want you looking up there. So they go and complain, and they kick it out. Okay? So,
I have an example too.
yeah.
Literally in New York, a couple weeks ago, we're in a booth, and then right next to us is Sears Home Improvement, and they're trying to get scheduled, free estimations or whatnot. They literally would chase customers down and follow them past our booth. They would stand in front of our table. So finally, I had to go outside my booth and stand, like in the walkway. So like he would like come walking and almost have to hit me. I mean, they're very pushy, so you have to be able to defend your territory and let your customers, because they were like scaring my people off. And
And see, not all vendors are like
Yeah.
that, but you need to be aware, this is competition. These are people who are wanting those dollars like you.
Well, but Sandy took over on that.
Sometimes in those situations, I've also just had a little heart-to-heart with them about, I would go up to them and say, hey, when I first started doing shows, I didn't know about show ethics, and I got a lot of vendors, I just kind of said, I was pretty vocal I was kind of putting it on me, letting them know that, hey, we have to look out for each other, and that kind of helps, gets them a little more less competitive and willing to work with you. One of the things too that's really important is that, you're competing for their attention walking down the aisle. They can't look at 2 sides at one time. And sometimes people, if your booth isn't bright enough and the person across from you has this like amazing looking booth, they're going to be looking at that one and you're going to see your sales plummet. So like one of the things I do is I put these giant long electrical socket things and I tie them to the ends of the poles that most booths have. And I cable strap them, and then I put all my plugins on there, and I light them all up, and it serves as an eye catcher. And I've noticed that really helps bring traffic to my booth.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Everything you want to sell, you should have on. If it's a warmer or a plug, or at least have it out that you could change out. We use this quite often because it's a quick change out. Throw another one up there. You can just have them set out on the table. Okay. Because we found that they want to see what it's really going to look like.
So do you buy extra bases and then just put the,
I do.
oh, you're a genius.
Yeah, so we don't have to tear them open. Now, there's been times where we've had to take them out of the boxes and use them, but I usually carry a bunch in stock, and depending on how many displays I'll have, I'll bring out whatever I need. And I also have them in case somebody comes up and says, hey, I have a defective, or I need a light bulb. I never charge for my light bulbs. If somebody walks up and they say, hey, I've got a plug-in and I don't know where to get the 15-watt light bulb, because it's hard to find them, I just give them one. 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, now I need some more bars because my thing's working. So they go over and they start buying product. So those are just little things that you can decide if you want to do, okay? It's been really good for us because one of the things that you'll notice is customer service is kind of a lost art. When you hand something over, or if you give somebody a base that blew out and they have to deal with return with Scentsy, and you say, I'll take care of it. Here's your base. Those types of things really get you a loyal customer. Okay? They'll buy from you then. They'll go online later. We've tracked it for many years. Okay? Okay, so there's a few other things we'll cover about booths and stuff like that, but I wanted to throw out, there's a new policy coming out starting in January. Where Scentsy is leaving it up to a show promoter how many booths that they will allow and show. So my caution to you is, check with the show promoter before you sign contract with them. if they have a Scentsy booth already represented, and if they intend to let more than one Scentsy booth in. If they're saying no, that's somebody you'll probably want to continue to look at or talk to or possibly sign with. If they say we're not going to be exclusive, if we have the traffic, we let them in, those are the ones you want to avoid, because they're basically looking to fill location rather than making it a good experience for the vendors and the customers. I don't know how many of you have been to a home and garden show or something like that, where you expect to see a lot of home decor things and you get 9 hot tub vendors. It's not really a fun show, especially if you have to pay to get in. You're not going to want to go back, and you're going to be disappointed when you get in there. So keep that in mind. If they're leaving it up to the show promoter, you are the one who has to vet out how many people are you going to be in competition with. And if it makes sense, let's say it's the Texas State Fair. 24 million people are going through there. They could handle another Scentsy location, as long as it was at the far end and you guys weren't price gouging each other. You know what I mean?
Like working together instead of.
Yeah, if you come over and say, hey, or you knew who it was or whatever. So the thing with the new policy is you've got to be the ones to protect your investment by asking those questions. Who else is there? Are you going to let other people in? Can you be exclusive? Those types of things. Okay. Now, yes, go ahead.
I have on that, is it one, because there's 3 different products now,
Right.
so is that one of each or 2 of each, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you're, I would say look for the competition that is selling the same product family you are.
Okay.
Because Grace Adele can do what they want to do, as long as they're not taking away from Scentsy sales.
Okay.
So you can have 3 Scentsy family people there. If you got Bellotta, Grace Adele, and Scentsy, perfect. You're all represented and you're not competing product for product. It's when you're competing product for product, you might have a problem.
With that policy change, is it still going to be that the same person can't do all 3?
Right now it is, but here's the thing that you got to be aware of. If they'll allow more than 2 Scentsy product booths, or more than 1, I should say, will they sell that second booth to you? And is the booth going to be worth it? Will it bring more traffic, or is it just more of an expense? So we have actually kind of played with the idea of, do we offer that to our guy, whoever our show promoter is, or is he going to say, yeah, we're going to offer it just so I buy another booth?
Well, that's what I'm saying right now, your name can't be on that contract for, if you're doing Scentsy, you can't have your contract, the name on the Bellotta booth
Right.
or the Grace Adele.
Right.
Is that gonna change as well?
Right now, no, but there is talk of that. Because at one point, the talk is that if they're going to let the show promoters be the ones that we deal with, then why is Scentsy involved at all?
That's true.
So if that's the case, you could find yourself in the future, if they do change that, where you could run 3 different booths. Now, that's pitchman lifestyle. You've got to get them manned, you've got to, I mean, there's a lot going on there. So keep that in mind, and some products will pay for their booths, other products will not, okay? The numbers that I gave you is for Scentsy product, because Scentsy has legs at shows. People can get it, it's a $5 item, it doesn't break the bank. We don't have a lot of numbers yet for Grace Adele, because we haven't done any booths.
And it's so hard to know what people, like you can't guess what people are gonna buy.
You can't carry every color of purse.
Well, and that's why you got to decide, is Grace Adele a booth-worthy product? Or is it really a home party product? Okay? That's really where a lot of your business decisions need to come into play. What are you willing to pitch, and how long can you afford to lose money? Okay? Yeah.
What do you know about show packaging companies who will, like, for a fee, book you in so many shows?
I've talked to a couple of them, and some of them will do a good job. The problem is, they also have arrangements with most of the shows that they would place you with, and if you're, say, Scentsy, and they already have a Scentsy booth in that other show, you're going to be the one that they give the booth to, and they're not gonna necessarily disclose to you that there's another Scentsy booth there. So and then if they've signed before you, you're the one that has to leave. At least until January. And then in January, then it's like, okay, we're only expecting 3,000 people here, and if this is where we're at, okay, I know my numbers are not gonna pay for the booth now, because half of my sales are gone. Or, it could be a scenario where, and this is yet to be seen, but if I'm at a Clove and Cinnamon, and the lady across the way has it, great, we're helping each other because we're not losing sales. Because I've already sold out, but.
It's always a good idea to go, even if you're doing other, like if you have a show and there's Grace Adele or Volata there, it's always a good idea to just go say hi anyway. Like make friends. None of us are in competition with each other. So I always just go say hi, make a friend, whatever. Because what happens is if they like you and you're friendly and you're not a threat, and they're sitting there at the booth and someone says, oh, you know what we really wanted was Volata. Oh, it's right over there. I know the girl. She's great.
Yeah.
And they'll send you right that way
And
instead of, well, come talk to me later or whatever it is.
Right.
It changes the dynamic of your entire event when you are friendly.
Right. Now, that works really well when you have multiple product families and they're all different. Nobody's really experienced when there's two, because before we had a policy that would kind of hold us to one, and the second person was usually at fault and they'd have to leave. But now, if the show promoter allows it, they're okay to stay. But if you've worked that booth for 5 or 6 years, and you've built it from no recognition up to a finally starting to pay off, there might be some hard feelings. So the idea is, like Amy says, talk with them, get with your show promoters and find out if they'll be exclusive with you. And if it's a big show, and it really can support the traffic, you will have the option to buy a second booth. If it's for Scentsy product, not Volata, that kind of
It's like a realtor relationship. You have to figure out
It
which
is.
side they're working for.
thing. Yes.
The other thing you have to consider, if you're gonna take that risk and go into and do a show that already has a Scentsy vendor, they can get a far superior location to you. I had a situation where we had 2 promoters working one show, and we could not determine who. We decided to try to do it together. You know, she had her spot, I had mine. I had the inferior location. It was a disaster. So I'll never do that again. I'd rather pack up and lose that money rather than all that time. But, and we were very cordial and worked with each other, and it still became really hard.
And we'll get into a little bit about that because I know a lot of booths out there. Prices vary, and if it's something you really want to get into, sometimes you go in with somebody else, and we'll talk about that. Okay. So in January, it's just one of those things where it could help you both if you're both there, and it could ruin the show for both of them. So make friends if they happen to be selling the same product. Send each other. If you don't have that warmer, but you did see it over there, play the good neighbor scenario. They'll send it back to you, especially if they say, hey, or you walk them over there if you have somebody else in your booth that can watch it for a minute. You know, make good friends. Yeah.
This wouldn't be possible at all booths, but I did a booth where it was outside. Kathy was with me, going on Nampa, and there was, like, right over there, there's another set.
At first you get mad,
So,
don't you?
yeah, it's like, okay. So I walk over there and I'm like, so, what do we do now? And so, like, I got my paperwork out and was like, I signed this day, and they had her paperwork, and, well, and I was like, okay, so I'm not about to, like, send anyone home. I'm not, like, because I'm not a big policeman and I'm not the enforcer, and I'm a happy-go-lucky, I love everybody kind of person. So I was like, how about we combine our booths together? You bring all of your stuff over, we'll do one big, you'll still keep your stuff over there, I'll keep my stuff over here, you can sell your stuff, I will sell my stuff. But it made our booth larger.
It was huge.
And so it actually brought more people in, and I think we actually ended up selling way more there than we would have in the first place.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They
and
had
the
a
spirit
great
of
time.
cooperation is what Scentsy is all about. So if you can
She
work
don't
those
always
deals,
piggyback and-
doesn't always, but you gotta,
And
go ahead.
The thing is that change is hard, and this is going to be, I mean, the change is constant. And you can't get away from it. So it's how you're going to deal with the change, because you can't control how somebody else is going to deal with it. Somebody else can be flat out ugly and mean and not uncooperative, but if you continue just to be full of that Scentsy spirit and a peacemaker, for so many words, you're gonna benefit in the long run. May not be that day, but in the long run, you'll be better off than they will. And, you know, and again, it might change when they realize it's just creating a mess, or it might turn out to be really good. So just control how you respond to the situation, and things will be better for you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about display. All right, everybody has their own idea of how their booth should look. One thing that we found, very similar to what a few of you have already talked about, is light it up. They want to see it on. Turn it on. Keep it clean and professional and open, and allow them to come in and open the product. This product, not everything. You know, you won't want to tearing into Grace, but have them smell. And have them come in and actually look at the warmers. Have them be involved, because they feel welcomed into your booth when they feel that kind of trust or welcoming sensation. They're at ease. They let their guard down, and they'll be able to and be honest with you about what they like. If you know, I like this type of fragrance, or I like, you know, then you can kind of point them around to what they have. Okay. The other thing is have samples. Samples are kind of a great way to keep them interested in something that they may not have thought would be a good fragrance for them. You may not have it available here, but put a scent of the month sample in their bag with your card and information. And tell them what it is. Put it in your warmer and try it. Here's a little sample for you. Otherwise they'll be like, hey, they'll smell it, but what do they do with it? I get that question all the time.
Kevin,
Yeah.
I actually did a show a few years ago in Florida, and I had a gal call me 3 months later. She had held on to that cinnamon sample for 3 months.
Cinnamon?
Cinnamon, and she joined my team. You never know
You don't.
where that sample's gonna go, how long it's gonna be sitting around, and when it's gonna come back around and benefit you.
The BSA says that you should expect a 90-day turnaround on anything like samples or anything like that you put out. You should expect a 90-day turnaround. That's the BSA standard. I'm not sure that is, but.
Well, and we've had people who have signed up under somebody in our team who worked our booth a whole year after the show was over. They still kept their information, or that individual gave them like maybe a business card that was a magnet or whatever.
What crude off of I can't remember the fragrance, a sample attached to her business card that the person put in their purse, and like 6 months or some odd time later, long time, it still smelled, and they called and signed up.
Yeah. So samples are a big deal for us. We give sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, we love the idea of giving, and they like the idea of getting something free. There's value in free stuff for everybody.
And don't ask them if they want it.
Just give it to them. Say, I've given you samples. And they're like, oh, kind of like a little Christmas surprise. They're excited about that, okay?
Yeah, if they're walking by and you say, do you want a sample? They're gonna say no. Say, here's a sample for you.
Right.
And then they'll stop and they'll accept it.
Yep. And you'll learn that. You'll learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And work within your comfort zone, because this is all about people.
No. Out of your comfort zone.
Well, there's a lot of differences here, but what
gotta
I want
push,
to tell
push.
you is if you are
How
you're
about
keeping your customers comfortable and you're not, what I'm trying to say is, yes, you have to stretch yourself,
Oh, I'm just
but-
saying, be who you are.
I'm trying to say something.
Be who you are. Don't change who you are, but push yourself beyond where you're comfortable.
So we found that catalogs are expensive at shows. Everybody's going to want a catalog, but there's so many other options for you that are cheaper and you can give to people. So there's the smaller flyers that you can give out, the join and host flyers, littler brochures that you can give to people that give them just a basic idea of what we're doing. I loved the buy brochure, the little trifold, because it gave them a little bit of an idea of what we sell, and then if it sparked their interest, they would go look online. And it was super cheap. and just have the catalogs for the people who want to see the warmer that they were looking for that somebody told them about. Then you can show them to them that way.
We tend to throw the catalogs in bags that people actually make a purchase of because they're more likely to want more. And there's also those big, what are they called? Showcase brochures that are a lot cheaper and they have everything displayed.
We just use those in Virginia, and it's because we were out of catalogs. And we found that people were very receptive, and it saved us money, and we could still give them everything they were looking for.
And they're bigger.
Pictures were
harder
really
to
small,
lose.
but at least they could get the idea, and if they wanted to go online later, they could.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, they don't know what it all
Which one's that?
The showcase,
True.
they're just, let me see if I can find one.
Fundraiser flyers.
Oh, you've got one?
they're almost like the size of.
We'll get an example and pass it around.
Also, Kevin, the product list is a good one to use.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So there's other options. Don't think you have to give them a 30-cent catalog. Okay?
The only problem with the showcase or the paper tear-off ones, they don't have the multi-packs on there. That's the only
Right.
problem.
And I'll give them the specials of the month. Those just go in with everybody who bought. Okay. But the other ones, those are the ones that the showcase one is a really good one. It basically looks like a Grace Adele size. It looks like this size over here, but on the inside of it, it's all Scentsy stuff. It's this size, but very thin. Okay.
Just one page.
So keep that in mind. And the other thing is label everything. Just like you do at the home party, label everything. Have it ready. Either do it at the time that they purchase it, or if you're the only one working the booth, pre-label it. Okay? So that saves you time later. And then let them know. If you have any issues, my information is inside, or wherever you label it. Okay? Encourage them to know that they can call you if they have a problem.
Also, I think it's good not to label on the outside of the bar, because if somebody's giving that bar as a gift, they really don't want somebody's name on the front. And also, like today, I swapped bars with somebody and I had to peel her label off the front and it left gummy stuff on the front, and it's just, I think it's better to really put the label inside. I think it's
So I make it a habit, and there's, like Amy said, there's lots of debate on this. I do mine on the inside. And if I do it on the warmer, I never put it on the top. I always put it on the very back at the bottom corner. So it's there, it looks professional, and they know that they can get a hold of it.
I was told that we're not supposed to cover up those warnings on the inside, like.
I just do it on the bottom where it says
Stickers come off
French.
no matter what anyways.
They're in 3 languages.
So they're,
We're gone, they're out.
we're out.
To each
Mine's
their
out
own.
too.
Okay.
To each their own.
So I don't really know that, my biggest thing is if they can get a hold of me with a sample receipt or with a sample card or something like that, great. But if they put their box up and they have a problem later, if they need a light bulb, if they can go there and quickly find my web address or find how to get a hold of me, it's a lot easier for them.
My opinion on putting them on the outside is if they're on the inside, it's out of sight, out of mind. Well, some of the labels actually absorb a lot of the oil out of the wax if they hold on to their bars for a while. And people lose catalogs all the time. Most people don't even know that they put a sticker on the bottom of the warmer. They don't keep the box, but they almost never lose their bars.
But you have to open the clamshell to get the wax out, so you'll see the nice little.
And I see that
So-
Scentsy would prefer us to put them on the inside because we're not supposed to mess with any of the packaging and writing on the outside, but if you wanted to put it on the bottom part of the bar, I mean, you could do that too.
I do it
Note to
right
self,
at
it does
the
not come off the
top.
bottom.
I use like a
Ever.
very tiny address.
So whatever works.
There's always different.
Yeah.
It
You
can
can
go
never
either
go
way.
wrong.
So I
Pick what you
mean,
like best.
You get your name on there, that's the
the whole point is that you paid for the right to talk to that customer. You paid for that. That's money out of your business. You want them to be able to get back to you, okay? The other thing we found very important is have a way to take credit cards. These are free, and I actually got, You know, it's funny because for the longest time.
Not
What's
the
that?
iPad. The iPad is not free.
So the
The
iPad
iPad is not free.
Oh,
The
oh,
little thing on the top.
We knew what he meant.
oh. So if you don't use Square, Intuit has one that works the same way. It works off a smartphone. Here's another one that PayPal just started. It's another card reader that just fits in the top of your iPhone that Amy had. And there's a lot of different options, and these are free services. They give you the hardware for free. You sign up and they mail it to you. Okay. And I used to spend money for the old green style that you would swipe and you have to put in all the information off the card, and then they'd go out and dial up and get a authorization and whatnot. This has made it, the technology has really made it quick and easy, and you get immediate verification, and they do a signature. Now they can't say I didn't get it, which is nice.
Saving yourself from one person walking away with product, like giving you a bad credit card, and you paid for it for a year.
Yep. So there's some cool things about it. All right. So look into the options that are out there and see what works best for you. Some of them will actually link right up to your QuickBooks. Others, you have to go online and kind of get the information there. But you can reprint, resend receipts, do all kinds of stuff. And if they have to have one right there, some of them even will pair up with a printer. That's just a little small receipt printer that you can Bluetooth. Just give them a hard copy if they want that. So, good options out there for that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about sharing a booth, because this can be kind of
Stressful.
it can be stressful. It can be you can get some hard feelings from it, especially if you think you worked harder than the other person, and yada yada. So, here's what Becky and I do. We don't share booths.
We're so giving.
And I don't say that in a mean way, because I will let consultants come into our booth, work in the booth for opportunities like bookings, recruiting. They can label anything that they sell, even though it's not their product. And it helps us out because we don't lose a customer or an opportunity to have somebody in our downline, whether they're directly sponsored by us or not. So we help them, and it's a good way for us to allow them the opportunity to grow, because our booth is already paid for. We would have lost that person if they didn't want to wait. So we allow them to come in and help out. We don't share the product, and we don't share the booth as far as the cost goes. And there are some reasons for that. Obviously, when you first get with a show promoter, they're going to want to put the contract in somebody's name. That person, whoever it is, owns that booth right. Which means in the future, if you want to go there, whatever, you want to
Go there again?
go there again, thank you very much. Oh my gosh. You want to go there again for the next show, you're in. All you got to do is they'll contact you and say you're in again, and you re-sign up for the next year, and it's easy. You don't have to re-find them or any of that stuff. But if your name is not on the contract and the other person doesn't want to do the booth, you don't automatically get it defaulted. They find the next person on their waiting list. So you lose the opportunity even though you worked the show. Okay? So we put the booth in our name. We buy the product to pay for the booth, because usually we can do that. And then if we are going out of state, we will contact people in our downline and ask them if they want a couple hours in the booth, or if they want to work a Saturday, and let them know what you're offering. I'll let you sell anything in the booth that you can label with your product. You can recruit right out of the booth, and you can book parties right out of the booth. Now, sometimes it works really well. Most of the time it works really well. If there is no expectation for them to bring product or to split the earnings or to get their name on the contract, if you're not dealing with those things and you're just dealing with a consultant you want to help, it works wonderful. But if you end up having a scenario where you need to share a booth, the things you need to remember are make sure you know who you're dealing with, and put it all in writing. Make sure you both agree. You're going to bring this product, I will bring this product. Have an inventory of it. The reason why we don't like dealing with it is because at the end of the show, let's say I agreed to bring the popular stuff. And at the end of the show, I ended up getting all the Spice Bazaar. Okay, how did that happen? Now, you know. So you need to know what it is you're going to bring. You need to really be careful with this. The other reason is, if they feel like they have an invested reason to be there, now it's competition at the table to get attention so that you can be the person that you recruit, or recruit the next person, okay? That seems to be a little backwards from the way Scentsy feels about that, okay? You want to not be in competition with the girl in the booth. You guys want to be working and collaborating together. So if they're there, we like to respect a first contact rule. If they approached me and I was helping them, and then they come back later and they want to join, we do have people join right in our booth. They just come right in and we have a computer ready for them. Then that person who originally started with them should sign them up. Okay, that's kind of how we do a first contact. Some other things, yeah, so name on the booth. How are you dividing up the booth cost? So if somebody else's name's on the booth, am I paying part of this, or, so, yeah, okay. How you're splitting the product, you need to know these things and what you're bringing. So it doesn't look like a garage sale, it was actually a planned event. Okay. We had, I'm not kidding you, John and I were looking at the booth right across from us, and we couldn't figure out what their theme was. We didn't know what they were selling, you know. Make sure you know what you're bringing and have a plan there and both agree on it, okay? And first contact rule works really well for recruiting. And then what do you do with the leftover product? Are you splitting it 50-50? And what do you do for any monies that you gained? Now, if you own the booth and you own the product, you don't have to worry about that stuff. If you let them in, you let them in at your good graces, and they follow the plan you put in place, okay? That works really well. But
For those
again,
that can't afford to do it.
if you can't afford to do it, make sure you talk about those other things. Write them down, agree to it, have a plan, stick to the plan.
One of the problems, you know, I would love your input on is sometimes, you know, like I do the California State Fair, which is 18, 19 days long. So I try to do it all myself. Of course, I have people come in and I give them the moves and stuff like that. Problem is convention always falls, and so I have to find someone to replace me. And, you know, one year I let another girl bring in her own product. It was a disaster. She stole a lot of my product or didn't keep track, you know, borrowed some, I mean, it was awful. And then other times this last year I let a girl use all of my product, and that worked out pretty well. But it's still, I don't know where I was going with this.
I would say start with what you know you're going to do. Like Kevin said, stick to the plan. If you don't, I mean, because we've had that issue too, and it was actually my brother bringing his product, and it was a disaster. And, you know, being my brother, I ended up eating it, and but, you know, it's just not because he meant it to be, but it's just, it's too hard to keep track, especially when you're busy and whatnot. So, you know, if you're going to go in together, then make sure you have that plan. If you're not, then just make sure everybody knows up front you're not bringing your product, you're putting your information on my product, and because I'm giving you this opportunity, now I'm covering all the expenses. That's what you're getting from it.
Yeah, and I learned, you know, that like the girl that I had this past year was great. I could really trust her. And sometimes you find out the hard way, you can't even trust your own consultants. So really, you know, it's unfortunate, it's a risk you take.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody, I try not to think that somebody goes into a scenario where their intention is to rip it off. Okay? I never go into that. The problem is, it happens, and just because there wasn't a plan, you don't feel like you have a leg to stand on, or you give them the benefit of the doubt, and then the next thing you know, you have an issue. So really have a good plan and decide together, especially what you're gonna bring and how you're gonna divvy it up, okay? Because if you sold half and you both brought half to get this whole, we should both be able to split it equally.
Everybody brings this, the
Okay.
best way to do it is that you all bring the same exact things,
Yeah.
split in
Like,
separate,
do an
and then,
inventory, each person do an inventory, and at the end, just split the amount of sales in half, and then replace or do whatever, but just split it down the middle and just bring exactly the same stuff, and then it doesn't
And this
matter.
way, now you're looking at, you're only bringing things that you know are gonna sell, that people are gonna want, and it's not, like we said, the garage sale, okay? And the other thing that I found is a really good, which is common sense, but always say thank you, even if they just come up and talk to you. Really, they remember that, especially if they purchase and you say thank you, and every dollar today, we're grateful that they spend in our booth. And I want them to know that, so they come back, okay? And we actually have people at some of our shows now, they specifically wait to buy their Scentsy for the year, because they know we're gonna be there, which is kinda cool,
That's really cool.
so.
I also like to reward all my returning customers. I send out an email a couple days in advance, and I tell them that if they, because I won't remember every person. I'm not good at remembering faces, so I tell them, tell me you got, remind me that you got my email, and I'll give you a free gift. And, sometimes it'll be a free light bulb or a spatula or something, but they appreciate that. And one of the things, and I'm sure there's probably different opinions out there, they might totally disagree with me, but I don't do a drawing, because I find that I get people who will wait to see if they win instead of purchasing, or that's all they're interested in, and then I take all that time to put their contact information into my databases, and then they just opt out. And I don't ask if they want to be on my mailing list. I find not, a lot of times they'll just say no. I say, here, why don't you give me your information, and I'll let you know the sales and specials when I'll be here, and I give out free gifts for returning customers. And then they almost always fill it out. And always check to make sure you can read their writing.
There's a couple different ways to do that. I've seen girls in the booth that will actually have a sign-up sheet for the mailing list or for their newsletter. And they see it, they know they're going to get something, and they sign up. There's no gift offering, it's not a drawing. They know specifically that's what they're signing up for. Those are the ones who will read what you send them, and they want it. Okay?
I always give it to them, while I'm filling out their receipt or filling their bags or whatever.
Right.
Here, fill this out for me really quick while you're waiting, and then, cause that's where you get your basket parties and your recruits, and I get a recruit almost every show, because somebody checked the box if they're interested in making more money. Like 5 people will check the box, 1 person will sign up.
If somebody wants my customer info sheets, I made my own up that will say, hosting a party, doing a basket party, income opportunities, and I put fundraisers on there. And I always look at those boxes, so then I know to give them another package. And then that gives me that opportunity to talk with them, and while I have their attention, to give them that 30 seconds spiel or whatnot. And I always put at the end of my booth the join brochures and host brochures, because they don't always make it known. And I'll catch them, oh, you're interested in possibly joining, I use nothing for that, but just to find out if they're interested. And I put on there also about Facebook, because the same problem can happen. People will forget who you are, your name, and so if you have that sheet where they checked off it was okay for you to connect by Facebook, if they try to report you, then you have that as a backup.
we're running low on time, and I was gonna see if we had anybody that maybe, has done a Volata booth that might wanna share an experience or how they might do a Volata. And then, Michelle just got done doing a very successful, she's hiding, Grace Adele booth at a Christmas show, and
Okay.
I think,
We also need to do some drawings, because we
yes,
kind
we
of
do,
missed that.
we'll do a couple, so.
But really quickly, on the pitch, everybody has a different pitch. My biggest thing is to remember, get them smelling as soon as you can. Because Scentsy product is, you know, they see it, they like it, it's a pretty product. If they smell it, they'll buy it. So,
And you only have about
Best-
15 to 20 seconds.
yeah, the best thing to do is shut up. And get them smelling, ask them what they like.
Does anybody want to talk about a lot of
I'm running out of time. I will share with you.
We have one coming up, so we would love some input.
Lisa would love to talk about a lot of it.
I can give samples. Yeah, okay, and I found, and this is somebody in Utah, Cherie Sheffield, did a lot of booth while we were doing our Scentsy booth at the Utah State Fair. And she said, now you want to make sure with where you're doing it at that you are checking, but she didn't need to have a food permit because she used those little ice cream sample spoons. And she just dipped it in the chocolate and gave that to them to sample it. She didn't use food. It saved her chocolate, saved her money. And then all they're tasting is the chocolate. So that's gonna sell them too. So, and then she just had it, you know, stuff set out.
No strawberries.
And, anyway, so that's an idea of a lot of booths. And, you know, that way they're at least tasting the chocolate, because you do need to sample. I mean, chocolate is, you know, particular. And then, she just had a warmer in the back, she didn't even let them do it. It had a lid on it, took the lid off, took the spoon, just kinda, you know, front backed it and gave it to them to sample. So, that's.
Okay, so really quick, yes. For outdoor shows, I don't recommend that.
No, especially in the heat. If you get up over 80s, probably even like 70, 80, you really don't want to have your product out. I've done an outdoor show before, and I just kept the bars in a cooler back behind, and I used the testers.
We do a lot of indoor shows.
Yeah, we don't do very many outdoor, but I would not recommend this for outdoors.
Right. Sometimes your testers will last you one show when you do outdoor shows.
Yeah.
You can get, like, I did an outdoor show, in the summer, because I'm a junior. And I took these big, like I have at the dollar store, they're just like big plastic things, and I just filled them with ice, and then I double boiled them. So I had like 2 plastic things.
Oh, and then you put the
ice,
testers
and
on top of the
then I
ice.
put the testers
That's a
on
good
that,
idea.
and kept them cool, and then I just changed out the ice every couple of hours.
That's a good
But
idea.
my testers were fine, and it was totally flat, like
Yeah.
it's the favorite singular, like,
There's
That's
lots
a
of
good
ways to
idea.
do it. There's additional expenses and other things to worry about outdoor shows. That's why we've kind of been lazy and only wanted to do the indoor shows. We are kind of spoiled. All right, so we are running a little bit short on
I told Michelle
time.
to share her.
Okay,
Grace
Michelle.
Bell. Michelle, I'm putting you on the spot, sweetie.
Sister, speak up.
Yeah, she's coming up to the room. Come on up.
Share the light.
We
Share
love
the light.
Yay!
This is Michelle Smith. She is a director. There's too many DSSDs.
Whoa.
Star director. And she just got done, I'm gonna let her say, huge successful Grace Adele booth. Hugely.
I was just down in Portland and did it's called the Portland Food and Gift Show. And I actually was in Portland about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and did another one down there, and it was a women's show. And unfortunately, we had gotten some wrong information, or we were misrepresented by the person that was holding the show. So it was one of those experiences, you go down, you're all ready for a really good 3-day show, all prepared, and you pretty much kind of stand there for 3 days. Lots of time, though, to talk to your customers when you do have your customers, because you are told that 8,000 to 20,000 people are going to show up, and maybe 1,200 people show up. So the customers that I did get to meet all were back here at this next show, that we did have probably close to, I would say, probably 10, 11,000 people there, at least. So it was very busy. It was a 3-day show. I was by myself. Oh my goodness gracious, never again. You don't even get to go potty.
Sean has played this game. That's why I'm laughing.
These shows, literally, you not only, which I knew that, you are not supposed to leave your booth unless you have someone to fill in. Had some friends that do totally different, the other situation, but they were quite a ways away, and
when they weren't slammed, they would try to run down, but that doesn't happen very often. Anyways, quick story here. So I went down with not as much product because here Lisa, one of my directors, we had an awesome event for one day in Boise that we weren't expecting to be as great as it did because a lot of our customers were in classes that day and ended up doing really well that day. So it was kind of short on product, and I'm calling up here to Boise, help! Can you guys send down new product? And I had some elves from the fire department bring down product, and everything that they sent down I got completely rid of, other than I could have sold the leather bag, but I was being stingy by that point, and I wanted to show it to other people. Besides, I was displaying my own purse, and because everything else was going quickly, and I ended up selling 2 of the leather purses.
Mine are gone. Oh, no, there's a black one there.
So the one that has the
Rings on it?
the
Around,
rings
yeah.
on it that's more curved in, 2 of those. Also the dropped necklace, that's our $55 one, gorgeous, if anybody's ever seen that. $55 price point. I didn't even have it out for an hour. It was out the door. So just to kind of give you information, this stuff is selling. People are very, very happy with it. Had several consultants stop by the booth. I talked hours with consultants, not knowing if they were wanting to do Grace Adele, was wondering how it was doing. I honestly told them all of my experiences that I've had so far with Grace Adele. I've wanted to make sure I told everybody, I think it is very important since it is so new, and you tell them, well, it's just been out since September. People at first are kind of leery about, oh, September, with this kind of paying out, say $200 for the leather or different products, buying the clutch and the purse. Don't know that I want to do that. I say, have you heard of Scentsy before? And all of them say, oh yes, love Scentsy. Well, we are part of the Scentsy family. And if you know about Scentsy, we are here to stand behind our products. And your consultant is always going to be there to help you with any problems you have. As soon as I do that, it's like ding, ding, ding. It's like the spirit. Yeah, exactly.
I gotta jump on
Never
this.
about
I
making
gotta jump
them
on
feel
this.
comfortable because that's exactly what she's doing.
The lights go on, it's like they have no concern, it's like, okay, it's like, okay, now we're having all of a sudden this huge party, and they're just going through things, they wanna see it, so I go through and of course show the purse, show how the purse is all set up, and I tell them a little bit about all the products, and pretty soon you just have more and more people stopping, listening, looking, and it's just a hands-on.
Can you see her
punchy-
set up in that booth with the food vendor and the little the microphone? Come on up, don't you get too far away, come on up.
I can see you doing that.
She doesn't need the mic.
Hire me, hire me.
She doesn't need a microphone.
So it was just awesome. It was a touchy-feely, and I was even telling Becky, I hadn't got a chance to tell her. There was, happened to be a Scentsy group that had been there 3 or 4 years, and it was really cool how they had this event set up. There was like sections of 3 and then 3 across from us and then back behind, and they had them all grouped in these sections, and large events, hundreds of vendors, and it turned out awesome the way people could mill and go through. And right kitty corner for me was a Scentsy, a regular just Scentsy booth. Those people were great. They came over, checked everything out, asked me questions. I got to know them really well. They've already contacted me. I've had a ton of customers already email me, even said it was great to stop and talk to you, to get to know you. Can I order product from you even though you're in Idaho on other things? And I'm like, you're very welcome to. I'd be glad to send it to you.
No, I'm sorry, I only
I only went down there
Yeah,
because,
no
I
way.
had to.
And then we also had Velada there, and the gals who I was running short, they got me in contact with one of their other gals, which, sad story short, need to get in contact with her. Her daughter sounds like going through a very, very serious surgery on Monday. This Friday. She was needing some money and has been trying to sell her Grace Adele products. And so I met up with her in Washington, purchased all of her Grace Adele products from her, and then I had more for the show to
Good for you.
Cool.
What was the ratio of the product you sold versus what people ordered? You know what I mean, like how many orders?
I probably placed last night $2,100 worth of orders.
Wow.
That's really good.
Awesome.
And I sold there, I think, 12, I was trying to remember, 12 or $1,300.
Okay, so about 1 to 2 ratio. Okay, cool.
So,
Awesome.
one last thing before we break. Just a reminder, there's some food in there for you guys. But the other thing is, if you have some other questions, we'll be here for a few more minutes. We can talk to you about. Last thing about booths, location is everything in shows. If you have to be in an inline booth, inline are when you kind of stack together, okay? If you have to be the middle guy, make sure the people next to you are not the ones that build out their cabinets and they block you off. Or check with the show promoter and make sure that they don't have separators that are 8 feet tall. Usually they're your table size or table height.
You're not by the Vitamix person with their microphone in
So
a
try not to get in a closed one. Try to stay away from the cooking people, and you can talk to your promoters about this. I don't want to be next to cooking people, and I don't want to be next to people with microphones, or the ShamWow guy who's banging everything and try to get attention, okay? Or loud music. So say those things. Make sure that's part of your deal. The other thing is, if you can get a corner booth, those are prime. Because it opens up all of your opportunities to get people in as far as traffic's
They
concerned.
are more expensive.
They are.
Some shows don't charge it, other shows will add a couple $100 because it's corner, but it's worth it if you
They
can
are
get it.
well
You know,
worth
if
it.
you're talking about inventory software, I use QuickBooks Point of Sale, and you can create all these reports to see exactly what's sold at your show. You can look back, you can see trends, it's awesome. And it makes it really easy to order.
Sorry. Totally forgot about a recruiting journal, and we do have one that got brought back. Oh, there she is. I'm like one person over. So
Awesome.
come on up and share your experience with us.
But where's the, oh, you got it. Okay.
People on this side of the bar, thanks.
Okay, so my name's Amber Bertries and I'm on Janice's team. And my teammate's actually here. Her name's Amy.
Wow.
You just recruited her?
No, she's been my recruit for a while, but
Oh, she came with me.
she came with me.
Awesome.
So, she's actually family and she liked Scentsy a lot, knew a lot about it, but was shy. And when I came back from convention, not this last year, but the year before, I was very excited and had to show her all the product, and she booked a party, and nobody showed up for her party. I'm like, that's okay, we'll just book you another one, or we'll sign you up and we'll book you a starter show.
We've all had that, by the way.
Don't worry, that's how all my shows are.
So what was your experience with the recruiting journal?
So, with the recruiting journal, it was a little crazy. I had to decide which person I wanted to put in the journal, first of all.
Bad problem.
Oh, darn!
There's so many options.
We would have taken all of them, just start writing.
Well, so the other ones that I didn't put in the journal though, I learned from Amy, which is nice to learn from your recruits, to use all of your social media outlets. Because a lot of her recruits are actually from Instagram, which is just an app that you can download on your phone, if people don't know that. So there are plenty, there's a ton of people on there that are Scentsy, but she got connected with some people that were on a bridal site, and they're like, hey, what's Scentsy? So I have girls in Missouri that are doing amazing.
Awesome.
And so my experience with the journal is just to think outside the box.
Perfect.
Very nice.
Thank you. To take it. Remember what our grand prize is? Do we have any?
It's on display.
This is the grand prize. Janice, you want it? Anybody else? If there's more than one person, I'm putting your name in to draw.
What is
it? Oh, okay, so the recruiting journal is it's just a monthly, you take it and then you bring it back to the next meeting. And any experience that you have with recruiting, like if you talk to somebody and they ask you questions about the business, your journey with that person, like problems they had or questions that they had that you weren't sure about, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, any hurdles, you know, questions that they asked or roadblocks, or what is that word I'm looking for? Objections, thank you, that they had and how you dealt with them. If you recruit somebody and you bring them with you to the next meeting with your journal, you get one of these little display stamps that sure like grandma has. Just for taking the journal, you get a little recruiting pack like I just gave her. And so you're just, but you have to bring it back because we have 4 of them out and we only have 1 back tonight. So is there anybody besides Janice?
So.
Oh, you got competition, Janice. You might want to beat your sister.
Guys, the long-term idea behind this is for people who have never recruited in direct selling can actually go to this journal, because we'll compile them once they get filled, and say, okay, I'm not alone in the frustrations or the challenges, and this is how other people dealt with them. And give them ideas so that they don't feel so alone when they try to recruit and have problems. Or if they have great success, they'll realize, okay, I'm with everybody on this. It's not as hard as it needs to be, or people think it is. So.
I'm tired of retailing. I want to recruit.
Well, the idea is really, it would be awesome if you took it, you took the challenge, you actually recruited somebody that month and recorded that journey in here.
Anybody else want to go in?
It's a challenge.
This is outside your comfort zone.
Take a ticket, take
Okay,
a
who's
ticket.
taking it? Who's taking it?
Well, we got 2 in here now. Janice and her sister are fighting over it. So I'm not getting in this battle here. Missy, you can pick that one. Oh, 8, 9, 6. Oh.
Awesome.
I quit.
Hey, you know, next month, and we'll have another one back for you.
All right, all right.
Take the one next
Tell her to
But-
bring that one back
But
next
still
month.
recruit. Don't not recruit just because
Yeah,
you
I'm not recruit.
Okay, we're gonna break now, grab some food, mingle for a little bit. We do, what time is it now?
It's about 8:30, so.
Okay.
Did you want to do an announcement about the Christmas party? Yes, I was putting it real.
If you want one of these with some of the numbers and stuff, they're there for you. And
Anyway, she wins, right?
Beck, are we splitting or what's going
Yeah,
on?
yeah, we're gonna do our Christmas party, I'm gonna give you the date, the 13th, December 13th, it's gonna be here. And it's not a meeting per se, bring your spouse,
It's a mingle.
it's a
We're gonna have
mingle,
food,
food,
music.
play some fun games. Unfortunately, we.
Magic Mike will show up. Yep.
Live band.
Magic Mike,
Mike's
Magic
gonna be-
Kevin.
It's not a costume.
Oh,
party.
yes.
Magic Kevin.
But unfortunately, we're limited on space, so it's just, you and 1, you plus 1. And